Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Housewife Historian. Today we're talking about the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Filming has started for the new season, so we do know that we have an up and coming season. And after last season and the three-part reunion aired for the Real Housewives of New Jersey, there were a lot of things that came to light and that were exposed. About some of the castmates. And I think it's important, since we know that all of the same cast is going to be returning to the Real Housewives, that we go back and look over some of the things that were exposed in the off season about some of the cast on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. There was so much that was coming out. It was so much information to take in. A lot of things, of course, got overlooked because every day it was something new. Everything in this video is alleged, of course. I have been initiated. I have been doxxed. I have been bullied. I have been sworn in. So don't come after me, please. I'm just repeating what a content creator has come out and said. So with that being said, let's jump into this, okay? So first of all, we're talking about the content creator, ALLRHONJ Facts. You can find her on Instagram. She posted several different posts and slides of conversations that she had with John from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. I'm not really sure which last name to use because there's a couple, so I'm just going to say John and Rachel. And allegedly, John's ex, who is also his son's mother, was dealing with addiction issues, and she ended up being sentenced to prison. And while she was in prison, this is her saying this, and yes, I have permission to talk about all of this. While she was in prison, they filmed for the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And even though people were giving kudos to Rachel in the beginning when they first started filming, and we saw Rachel say, I don't want to talk about Jaden's mom, she can tell her own story. But how quickly that changed, and before you knew it, we're talking adoption paperwork, we're talking after the season, there were statements allegedly made by Brittany and John's son to Page 6. So people were really astonished by that. But a couple of things we have to discuss is that these messages are very damning. And we're going to get into all of that. I noticed a lot of this has been not reported, correctly in the comments. It's a difficult situation to understand because she was incarcerated, and then she was given the opportunity for transitional control to go to a halfway house to finish out her prison sentence. So she's in prison. You have TV in prison. You call home in prison. You write home in prison. You email. You know what's going on. She was watching the Real Housewives of New Jersey and watching all of this play out. And then she watched the reunion. And if you guys remember, when John came at Louis and said, "Why did you find my baby mama?" And Louis was like, "I didn't find her." And John Fuda was certainly not okay with that answer. Brittany actually came out in Louis' defense and said, "Louis never tried to get a hold of me, right?" The Sun, the reporter, the Sun, had come out with a story. They had interviewed Brittany, and she went as far as to email them and say, like, "Hey, how did you guys get a hold of me?" And they were like, "We have a database where we were able to find your legal name, and then we could look you up in the state." Anyone that is incarcerated in a state, you can go and search, inmates online, but you have to know their full government name. You're not able just to put, you got to know who you're talking about. So they had a special database. They got her full government, and they found her, reached out, and she did the interview. She posted the emails online. She started talking to the content creator from ALLRHONJ Facts from the halfway house. And she was corresponding, letting her know a lot of what we saw on TV was not factual. She was correcting a lot of things. And I don't think that they liked that very well. Now, here's what's important for you guys to understand. Transitional control is a positive, it's something that if you have to be a model inmate typically, because here's a couple of things, right? when you do transitional control, it has to be approved by APA and the parole board, okay? If you have victims, they're going to contact your victims. A lot of things could hold up your transitional control. You cannot leave for transitional control any earlier than the last 6 months of your prison sentence, right? So by the time you get there, you're pretty much for about 3 or 4 months left of your sentence. So Brittany finishes out almost everything of her sentence. She gets no tickets. The APA, the parole board approves her. She's been a model inmate. She doesn't have victims. She doesn't have victims contesting her release. They transport her to a halfway house, right? But it's actually called transitional control if you're coming from a prison sentence, right? And that is supposed to be the opportunity to help reintegrate, get a job, get back into society, try to get on your feet as much as you can. It's hard. The halfway houses take 20% of your gross income. They're getting paid from the state as well, because here's the kicker. This is why there are not a lot of halfway houses, and transitional control is a gift. It's a blessing. It is not something that you have to have, right? And she gets there, she starts talking with this content creator. Some of the stuff starts to make it out to the press. And then allegedly somebody shows up at her halfway house demanding a legal visit. So what happens is anytime you're within an institution, if you have an attorney, they get on the visitors list, they come up and they have legal visits with you. So it doesn't take away from like your scheduled visit time. It's recorded properly, yada, yada, yada. You can't just show up at a lockdown facility and demand a legal visit because you're an attorney. This attorney was there allegedly to sort of rough her up, if you will, not physically, but scare her into thinking that maybe John and Rachel were going to, sue her, a lawsuit, call APA on her, have her sent back to prison. People are like, oh, he couldn't do that. She's still technically a warden of the state. So until she meets her full and complete sentence, the state can do whatever the state wants to do. Okay. So there are rules and regulations for APA, for parole, for transitional control that the client has to abide by, like no drinking, no drugs. You're going to get drug tested. You have to have a job. People get sent back to prison if they're in a halfway house and they don't get a job soon enough. Okay. Because again, it's a privilege. It's not a necessity. So especially if you're from a big county that doesn't have a lot of rides to prison often, they can come in at any day or night, anytime, cuff you out and take you back to prison if they deem that they want to. So when you are transitioning from a prison to TC, transitional control, if you're someone who's looking to change, if you're someone who doesn't want to be about that life anymore, you're going to try to just fly under the radar, finish your time, and get the hell out of there, right? Because that's what you do. You learned that in prison, it got you through. You do it in a halfway house until you are not living here answering to these people. You really have to keep these people on your good side, because they essentially report to your treatment team, who it reports to APA. These are the people that are describing your progress of or no progress of to your officers and people that you're reporting to. So that probably was really scary for her. The messages that were released, oh, you can't unread this shit. I can't read them to you guys on YouTube because I would be demonetized, and I wouldn't be able to do that. But you guys should definitely, again, if you don't have Instagram, I'll post them to my TikTok as well. They're on Twitter as well. If you aren't able to read them, if it's going, sometimes people DM me and they're like, can you just send it to me? And I get it. So if that's the case, DM me. I'll send them in a direct message to you, right? I have no problem doing that. But go over to her page, give her a like or share. She's a great content creator. She works hard. She gets a lot of tea. She gets a lot of press out there. So it would be great if you guys go over to Instagram to ALLRHONJ Facts. check out what she's posted. If you like John and Rachel, or you're sort of on the bridge, go check it out and see what his baby mama has to say, because I think it's important, and anyone who is a logical, realistic human being understands that there are two sides to one story. And I'll tell you something, when I'm dating somebody and they have a child and they have a baby mom, I'm watching how you treat your baby mama. I'm watching. Don't try to talk shit about that lady to me, because that tells me that there's something wrong, right? Because if you break up with someone, it's been almost a decade. Like John and Brittany were together allegedly like 7 years from the time she was 17. Very influential age. He was already older. He was in the party scene. He was probably trying to sell enough that he could at least get high on his own supply for free. Okay. So a lot of times if you start out doing something and it starts getting very, very, very expensive, and you learn a way to make money off of it, and then sometimes it's a sense of control too as well, right? Because Brittany and John are doing these things together. He's providing it to Brittany, but if he wants to be controlling with it, if he wants to use it to manipulate her, do you guys see what I'm saying? She's 17. She's doing hard drugs. She's in the presence of, men in their 20s. And unfortunately, this snowballed, right? Up until now. So now she has a chance. She's going to be getting out. I'm hoping and praying for her that she is able to get on her feet and work a program that helps her to keep her life manageable. So, I guess what people are really, of course, putting a little bit more emphasis on as well is, you have Rachel and John who are going to use this as a storyline. They're going to try to say that Louis reached there. That's going to be why they don't like Louis and Teresa. But here's the truth, guys. We all know that John and Rachel have to show their undying loyalty to Melissa and Joe, because that's why they're where they are. Okay. They were like, you know what, Joe, we know you don't like to pay people for stuff. You don't got to rob us. You know what? We'll just give it to you. Okay. And then you help us in return. Not a terrible idea, but I don't think that Joe would have done that for anyone. He picked them specifically knowing that they would stay loyal to him and Melissa, knowing that he's known John Fudo for a very long time, knowing that he changed his last name to come onto the show. Guys, that's a red flag. Why are you changing your name to come on the show? If you have juvenile incidences, if you want to say, they're sealed. Nobody's gonna find nobody. But it looks very sneaky. It looks suspicious. Also, insulting to all Bravo investigators. We are better than private investigators. I've never met people who can dig up and find information on people like I have in the Housewives community. So insulting that you would try to come on the show and change your name and not say, you should have slipped it in an interview. Something would have been better for nothing than just finding out randomly after the season aired. It looks a little suspicious. So I wonder if they're going to bring that up. Now that Brittany will be anticipating a full release, I'm sure that she will still have maybe a parole officer, but the likelihood of her getting in trouble now for speaking out is much different than when she would be living within the halfway house, right? So the halfway house is really meant to get back on your feet and to have a job and to have something together so that when that release date comes, you have somewhere to go. Okay. There's a lot of people that got released from prison that have nowhere to go. They give them money for a bus pass and they drive them down to the bus station. That's how it is in the state that I live in. So allegedly we have John and Rachel. We have hypothetically speaking, they're going to use this as ammo to not like Louis and Teresa, then keeping them in good graces of Joe and Gorga, right? Because everyone, if they have a common enemy, do you see what I'm saying? Picking up what I'm putting down. They have a common enemy. Now John and Rachel have their own beef with Louis and Teresa. So now they can film John and Rachel talking shit about Teresa and Louis, and also Melissa and Joe. They can all join in together, because before it was simply Melissa and Joe, because John and Rachel really didn't have anything. At least from the audience perspective, they didn't have really anything that they could have said poorly about her. So I don't know, guys. That's just my assumption. I hope that's not the case. And I hope that maybe if we talk about Brittany, we could only hope that Bravo would reach out to her. I doubt that they will, only because of Laura. Look at how they all went with Laura Lee Jensen. But we also know that Laura Lee Jensen was going to be a negative factor to Margaret Josephs. So it does look like Bravo / executors / producers protected Margaret from Laura Lee Jensen. And that does say something. If you guys go back and watch what happens live when Melissa goes on and she is in a gold outfit and Joe is in the audience, and somehow Laura Lee's name gets brought up and Melissa is like, oh, she tried out for the show 20 times. And you could tell by Andy's face, he really didn't know who Laura Lee Jensen was. In that moment, he surely didn't. So it's like, are these decisions that producers make, lower level producers make these decisions, and then they higher ups don't even necessarily maybe know that somebody was trying out or what their real beef could be? I don't know if that's true or not, but Andy Cohen definitely did not seem to look like he knew who Laura Lee was, and it wouldn't surprise me. So I don't know. I just know that these messages are juicy. I mean, I had to be like, what did I just read? I don't even know what I just read. So I would say go over there and check those out. They are about the kind of person that he is, what it was like when allegedly when Rachel and John adopted her son, and the circumstances. So maybe it'll give us a little bit more insight, but I just don't think that this couple, they've been on the cast for a year, right? I think Rachel is very lovely. I think he's older and in a way kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he loves his wife. He's beautiful. And now he's going to do whatever it takes to keep her happy. And she wants the perfect cookie cutter life right now. And dog addict, doesn't fit her profile. Like someone who used to have a problem or used to, do illegal things with selling it, whatever the case may be. So I don't know, guys. I say we need to look into this a little bit deeper. I think there are always two sides to one story, and I don't think that we can just take the word of John and Rachel on the situation, because now they have brought her into the situation with their son. He was making comments and statements to Page Six just a month or so ago. So they're going to blame Teresa on Brittany, but really, we wouldn't even know nothing about this